What's up, guys? Got another one on the war in Ukraine. There's a lot going on right now. Ukraine is taking back significant territory. The Russian army is in retreat right now. They're trying to set up new defensive lines to maintain trade routes, or excuse me, supply routes. Um, and you have local leaders in like St. Petersburg, Moscow, those areas. Um, they are calling for impeachment. They're calling to get Putin fired out of there. So while all that is happening, the Russian leadership is trying to say that, we're taking our time on purpose. That's what's taking so long. If we're being deliberated on purpose, they are trying to double down on upping the aggression in Ukraine. But like I said, their army is in retreat. So it's, you can talk a big game, but whatever is actually happening is happening. So he just did the SCO summit, and China is voicing its concerns on the war, saying like, they're really not wanting to give their support. They're starting to see that he don't have it under control. And then the Indian Prime Minister is telling Putin that now is not a time for war. Now's a time for peace. And, he's willing to listen to him, but it's not a time for war. So let's go ahead and watch this. This is WeOn. I really like their news outlet. They are Indian, and they tend to have a lot less bias towards politics, especially if you're trying to see world politics not through rose-colored glasses.
The war in Ukraine is raging on for close to 7 months now. Given the recent battlefield gains by Ukraine, the Russian troops on the ground are reportedly retreating. Now, the pressing question of the moment is, what would be the Russian President Vladimir Putin's next move? In recent weeks, it was widely reported that Ukraine has made significant regains in its northeast. It was also reported that the Russian forces retreated from several key areas. When the questions of the Russian retreat reached Vladimir Putin, this is what he said.
Корректировки не подлежит. Генеральный штаб.
The plan of Russia's special military operation is not subject to change. The General Staff makes operational decisions in the course of the operation. Something is considered the key, the main goal, and the main goal is the liberation of the entire territory of Donbass. This work continues despite attempts by the Ukrainian army to counter-offensive. Our offensive operation in the Donbass itself does not stop. It is moving at a slow pace, but consistently, gradually. The Russian army is occupying new and new territories.
He's trying to make it seem like it's on purpose that it's taking so long, when the entire world knows that Russia thought this was going to be like a 24-hour operation. They were going to roll through with a blitzkrieg and take Ukraine. And it just hasn't happened. They underestimated Ukraine's resolve, and they underestimated the world's resolve to support Ukraine. So, let's continue.
Speaking after the SCO summit in Uzbekistan, Samarkand, Putin added that Russian forces are not in a rush. It's also interesting that the Russian president had sought to test waters with his Asian allies. However, he got no tentative assurances during his meetings at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meet, which concluded on Friday. Both India and China have remained guarded. While Russia and China proclaimed a no-limits partnership, Beijing has now raised questions and concern over the conflict. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also told Putin at the same summit that today's era is not an era of war.
आज का युग युद्ध का है नहीं, और हमने फोन पर भी कई बार आपसे इस विषय में बात की है कि डेमोक्रेसी और डिप्लोमेसी और डायलॉग, ये सारी बातें ऐसी हैं कि जो दुनिया को एक स्पर्श करती हैं। आने वाले दिनों में शांति के रास्ते पर हम कैसे बढ़ सके, उसके विषय में जरूर आज हमें चर्चा करने का मौका मिलेगा। आपका व्यू पॉइंट समझने का मुझे भी एक अवसर मिलेगा।
Meanwhile, Putin's statement regarding his plans in Ukraine immediately led to speculation. Taking together the Russian president's words and the situation on ground zero, Western analysts now believing the Russian forces are setting up a new defensive line in Ukraine's northeast. The British Defense Ministry saying the line is likely between the Oskil River and Svatov. The UK ministry added that maintaining control of this zone is crucial for Moscow. That's because the region is transited by one of the few main resupply routes that Russia still controls from.
So that's one of their main resupply routes. If they lose that, it'll cut off supplies to a major portion of their army and really mess up their offensive. So if Ukraine would be able to get in here and, wreak some havoc, they could really push Russia back significantly. So, or at least hinder their ability to get supplies to their troops and starve the troops out.
From its Belgorod region, adding that a stubborn defense of this area was likely. Earlier on Friday, the U.S. military intelligence chief said Vladimir Putin is arriving at a decision. Stopping short of speculating over what that decision could be, the Pentagon's intelligence chief underlined that the Russian president's next move will largely drive how long this conflict lasts. And then there is also pressure from within. Some of the military operation's staunchest supporters are now calling on the Kremlin to scale things up in Ukraine. Hardline Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov lambasted the mistakes of the Russian generals. He made the comments in a voice note to his 2.4 million followers on Telegram, I beg your pardon. The opposition, though largely weakened, has doubled down on the criticism. And that's not all. Some local politicians from St. Petersburg, Moscow, and other regions have even called for the Russian leader to be sacked for the Ukraine invasion.
Yeah.
In fact, some local representatives have also demanded charges of state treason against Putin and that he must be stripped of power. They have cited a series of reasons, including Russia's military losses in Ukraine.
Now, they're calling for an impeachment of Putin and for the war in Ukraine and everything. As of right now, as Ukraine is taking back these areas, they're finding these mass graves of like hundreds of people with signs of torture and just all this horrific stuff. So there's a lot of war crimes happening right now that go against, like, the NATO Charter and all that. Not that Russia follows the NATO Charter, obviously, but should he be impeached and not just, taken out by one of his own, he's going to have a lot to answer for. So it's only time will tell going forward. But when all this kicked off, the longer Ukraine can hold out, the better it is for the rest of the world to turn on Russia for the damage, the economic damage, to do what it needs to do for the people, to really be hurt enough to say, all right, our leadership is causing this. They gotta go. So we'll see what happens. But go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. It'd be much appreciated. And until next time.